Welcome to Red Cell Review Radio right here on freeworld.fm. What's up, everybody? I have some really cool guests with me today. I do another show called Almost Human Live, and Tony Dio from that show is here, and Mr. Manny. Hello, Manny.
Hello, how you doing?
I didn't want to mispronounce your last name, Manny Mejias.
Mejias, yes. Very
Yes.
nice. We're gonna make you an honorary Latino yet.
You think I would like remember that because I've known you forever.
Yeah.
What's up, Tony?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah.
Good to
Thank
be
you.
here.
I figured since our other host that we do Almost Human Live, that's not going to happen for a while. I figured this would be kind of cool because we got a thing going, and
Yeah,
I hate
we
to break it up and everything. And it's sad what
Yep.
Ralph has going on with his family and stuff like that. So all the best of wishes to him and everything. But I want to do a show with you guys, and we're going to talk about Iron Maiden today. This is going to be the Iron Maiden like family tree. We're going to go through, where Iron Maiden kind of started and where some of the members came, left, and what they did afterwards and everything. So this is going to be pretty cool. The first song that we just played was Iron Maiden from the Soundhouse tapes. I figured let's just start at the very beginning, and I like the Soundhouse tapes. You guys like the Soundhouse tapes? Some of the songs are different from the studio album, the first.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's cool. I like that raw sound of the first Iron Maiden album anyhow. So the Soundhouse tapes, definitely has that raw, struggling band sound about it, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it was 3 songs on that. It was Iron Maiden, Invasion, and Prowler.
Yeah.
And they recorded a couple more that they released, on some collections later on, but that was all that came out on that original 7-inch EP.
Yeah, I think the one I have, because it was a re-release when they re-released all the Maiden albums. If you collected all of them, you got that Soundhouse tapes, and they added some extras on there.
This one, yeah,
that one,
yeah. This is one of the most valuable CDs that I own.
Really?
Because these are super rare.
Wow.
You look it up on Discogs. Yeah, it's pretty rare. It's almost more expensive than an actual Soundhouse vinyl.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I like it, but what amazes me is unlike Judas Priest or Deep Purple, Iron Maiden had their sound set from day one. It was a little rawer, but the sound that they would explore for the majority of their career is already in existence. That's what amazes me about that band. And I believe Tony, what songs are on there on the Soundhouse one?
You've got a song called Invasion, and Prowler from the first album, and Iron Maiden from the first album. So Invasion wasn't used on the first album. That was used as a B-side, I think, on the first single from I think maybe it was Wrathchild or Prowler. I can't remember. I have the vinyl. I can't remember what's on what. But yeah.
Well, it's amazing because the 2 of those songs are still populating the set list to this very day. So that's pretty amazing.
Well, the drums are a little bit. Yeah, the drums are a little bit different because it's not Clive on those songs. But
who's the drummer on there? Who's the drummer?
The drummer on here is, if I can read his name, Doug Sampson.
Doug Sampson.
So it's Doug Sampson, Dave Murray, Paul Diano, and Steve Harris. So they don't even have a second guitarist at this point. Dennis Stratton wasn't even playing in the band.
Was he officially not in the band yet when that was recorded?
I guess, yeah. I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I really I've never owned it. I never heard it till the YouTube actually existed. I've never owned it. I've never even seen a bootleg out in the wild. And I remember when those reissues came out, I didn't rebuy them because I wanted that, but I didn't rebuy them because I already had a majority of that stuff on CD, except Live After Death. I didn't have that one at that time yet on CD when those reissues came out.
Yeah, I didn't buy them either. My favorite Maiden CD collection is the 2 CD Castle versions that came out in the early '90s, around mid '90s.
Mine too.
And but I had I eventually worked at Sanctuary Records, but before I even worked, I had friends there, and someone got me one of those Soundhouse tapes when they did issues. So
one fell off the truck, huh?
Yeah, one fell off the truck.
One fell off the truck.
It's very cool. But see, I don't consider Iron Maiden really started until the first debut album. you know, because that's where the real Maiden is. You got Paul Di'Anno and then Dave Murray, and then Dennis Stratton finally comes in on guitar, and Steve Harrison, Clive Burr on the drums. And that, to me, that's Iron Maiden. You know, even though the Soundhouse Tapes is cool, that first
I kind of agree with that. It's like AC/DC. They recorded a song with Dave Evans. You may consider AC/DC, not you, other people, but I don't. AC/DC was born the minute Bon Scott stepped in there. So I kind of agree with your assessment on
your first album. Yeah, your first album pretty much solidifies the start.
Yeah. And you know, Paul Di'Anno, he was good on that Soundhouse Tapes, but he even got even better, I think, on that first debut album. And his voice, I mean, his voice is made for these first two albums for
sure.
And Killers. You know, Bruce Dickinson sings these songs, but they're just not the same. You know, only Paul can sing these songs. And it's just, they just have like the, you know, like the fire, I guess, and you know, the passion to play this music. And it's not metal, it's punk, but it's like it crossover, like a metal punk type thing. I mean,
don't
would you
tell
consider
that to Steve Harris.
Yeah, right.
Don't say that because he hates punk.
would you consider them like a crossover band in a way?
You know, it's kind of hard to say because I mean, they were still doing you know, hard rock and what was called heavy metal. People were calling Led Zeppelin and stuff like that heavy metal, but of course you got Sabbath. But yeah, it does have a little bit of a punk element to it for sure because it's speeded up. It's more fast paced, you know, than other metal at the time. You know, of course, Judas Priest kind of did that along the lines too, around what 79 when they came out with Exciter.
Right.
You know, that kind of playing the speedy tempos.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see the little punk element. I can see what you're saying.
I definitely see that too. I agree. And it's so interesting because a lot growing up, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Alice Cooper, Kiss, Deep Purple, a lot of bands that we would not consider heavy metal. I still consider them that way because that's the way I grew up. But Iron Maiden were probably one of the first bands to remove that blues influence out of their music.
That's true.
Yeah. And I know that Steve Harris is very influenced by, he loved Black Sabbath and he loved Queen, but he's very influenced by Jethro Tull, the Genesis era that he grew up with, which would have been Peter Gabriel. Yes. And I think it's a combination of prog rock meets metal meets a punk attitude, but maybe that attitude maybe comes from Paul Di'Anno. I don't know. You know,
yeah, he had the punk look. He had the punk image when he came in. He had the shorter, spiky hair, and he had the leather jacket, and kind of he would have fit right into hanging out with Sid Vicious or something. You know.
Oh yeah, definitely. What's some of your guys' favorite songs? I mean, I love this whole entire album. I think it's probably maybe my second, or it's up there. It's one of my top favorite Maiden albums. There's not a bad song on here. What about you guys?
You talking about the debut?
Yeah, debut.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything about the debut and Killers. I love both albums. It's a great one, man. It's just so much good stuff on that album, for sure. It's hard to just pick one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I even like Charlotte the Harlot, and that's a ridiculous song. But I think what sells me is
Prowler's probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's
you know what, I'm gonna have to go with Prowler. I'm gonna go with Prowler.
Yeah, it's a great opening track. But after this album, Dennis Stratton unfortunately leaves the band. Was he fired or did he just leave? Do you guys know?
He was fired.
Yeah, he supposedly he told Steve Harris that he was a big fan of the Eagles, and Steve Harris.
Is that true?
That's what I heard. Yeah. That was one of the rumors.
I think that's one of the rumors, but I think the point is that Dennis Stratton was more of a 70s throwback, where Adrian Smith, he had some of those elements, but he was definitely a modern guitar player, modern heavy metal guitar player. I think that, I mean, the difference night and day between the first album and second album, not just production wise, but the songwriting is just incredible. There's a couple songs I think that don't sound completed, but overall incredible. And also we should point out it was produced by Martin Burt's album number 2, I believe. So it's a really incredible album.
Yeah. Well, let's go listen to Adrian Smith's one of his previous bands. He was in this band Urchin, and he actually sang the song. It's called "She's a Roller."
Mhm.
Have you guys ever heard this song?
Yeah, I've got the CD of that as well. I was just sitting here looking at it actually.
Hey, you
I
have a
didn't know
CD
they
of that
actually
too.
released a CD of that. I just thought it was a single, Tony.
It's
You know,
unofficial release, but they've actually
Okay.
got an official release that came out on High Roller Records a couple years ago that complies all their stuff.
Hmm. Now,
I
Adrian
like it,
was
but
in. Go ahead. Yeah,
I
sorry.
was just gonna say I like the song. I've only heard one song, Tony. I'm a roller, which he's about to spin. But
She's a roller.
no, thank you. But to me it's definitely a 70s type hard rock track to me. No.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely is.
the whole record's like that. It's got more in common with like Bad Company or something like that, really, for what they were doing.
Yeah. But I can definitely hear Adrian's style, his guitar style in this song.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to Killers, the second Iron Maiden album. Adrian,
I
the
wanted
band.
to mention before you got there, Wayne. Sorry to
Go ahead.
interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Adrian. We're talking about Adrian and what he unless you want to go when he went on and when he left Maiden, what he did.
Yeah,
But
we could do that too. All these guys did so many things. It's hard
he
to
did a
like
lot of
mention
stuff.
everything. Yeah.
If we were kind of just focusing on Adrian, I was going to say, after he left Maiden, he had a band called Adrian Smith and Project.
Right.
And that was a very commercial sounding album. And it came out on, I think it was on EMI in Europe.
It was on EMI, yeah.
Here, and Enigma over here in the States. And then he had a band called in the early 90s. He had a band called Psycho Motel.
Oh yes, I remember that name.
2 albums, and they had different singers on each one. But the debut album, State of Mind, very Led Zeppelin like, has a big Zeppelin influence to it, especially with the vocalist. But both pretty good records overall.
Was he in anything else?
I never heard of that Psycho Motel till
Yeah.
years later. Actually, about 2 years ago. I never actually listened to it. I didn't even know they existed.
Wow.
Well, you asked, was he in anything else? And in more recent years, he's hooked up with Richie Cox.
Yeah. No, I meant before he joined Maiden.
I have no clue if he was anywhere before he was in Maiden. Urchin's all I know.
But yeah, so he's on the Killers album, and that album is just if the debut album is that good, Killers is like a step up, and
For
again,
sure.
many good songs on there. They still have that punk and metal style going on, but they just stepped it up, and it's awesome. It's great. But unfortunately, Paul Di'Anno is fired from the band. And well, what do you think? What do you guys think of Killers in general?
Tony, I'll let you go first.
Killers for the longest time was my favorite Iron Maiden album. Number of the Beast has kind of surpassed it over the years. And it could actually be on a teeter-totter. It could go between either one, of which is my favorite. But I love it. I love everything about it. I think it's a great record. Not a bad track on it. One of my favorite songs on it is Prodigal Son, which is the most proggy song that's on it.
Yeah.
I always, as many projects as Paul Di'Anno's done over the years, I would love to hear him do maybe like an unplugged project and do that song again. That would be very, very cool. And Paul's not been doing well in recent years. He's had knee surgery, and he's been in a wheelchair. He's performing in a wheelchair. But I saw some videos of him recently, and he sounds really good. His voice is very strong. He's sitting down in a wheelchair singing. But
I'm surprised he can sing that good sitting down.
Because a couple of years, if you in the last 10 years, I've seen him in concert, and he didn't sound that good. But recently, he sounds really good.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his power from when he was in his 20s, of course, but he just sounds very good for his age and to be in his condition.
Yeah. What about you, Manny?
I think it's an excellent album. I'm with Tony. For years is my favorite Iron Maiden album. And I teetered between that and Peace of Mind, not Number of the Beast. Peace of Mind's the first one I heard. I love that album. And I would have been curious to see, and this is controversial from my side. I don't think if they held on to Paul Di'Anno, they would have made it as huge in the United States. That's my opinion. I don't think Paul Di'Anno had the kind of voice that would have appealed to people outside of the metal aside at that point in time. Nowadays, he's great, but and I
I
don't
agree.
think he had I don't think he had the charisma, stagecraft that Bruce Dickinson that has. That being said, I don't think Dickinson had the grit or the there's just something about Paul Di'Anno's voice when he sings "Murders in the Rue Morgue" or and he can sing softer material too equally well. He's such an underrated vocalist. Um, and there's a reason Steve Harris picked him because the guy could sing. But overall, I love the album, and I think it's not only one of the best Iron Maiden albums, but also one of the best heavy metal albums of the '80s, and very influential. Also crossed over probably to the punk side of things, not musically, but a lot of fans that hated heavy metal liked Iron Maiden.
Oh, yeah.
So
I know a lot of people I know that listen to punk music. They love these first two Maiden albums, and it's funny you mentioned "Prodigal Son" because that, like it's like you mentioned, Tony. It's a progressive song, and that would just kind of show the direction they kind of took later on in their career. So for them to do that early on, it's just to see where they went from there. It's really cool. But like I mentioned earlier, Paul Di'Anno got fired from the band, starts up another band. He tries to call it Lone Wolf, and then another band was already called Lone Wolf, and they had to change the name, and he just figured let's just use Di'Anno. They only recorded a few songs, I think, right? And then they
I
end up
know one
disbanding.
album.
They
They
recorded
did
an
album.
one
album.
full-length album, and it's totally commercial hard rock. It doesn't sound anything like Iron Maiden or anything that Di'Anno would do in his later projects.
Wow.
It's very AOR, commercial hard rock, melodic
Right.
rock. Yeah,
Yeah,
Now, do
and
you have
it's
that, Tony? You have everything. Do you have that album?
I have
I
it.
do have it.
Yeah.
I have it on
Yeah.
LP and unofficial CD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I,
I have an unofficial CD of it too, and LP. I bought it in 1984 or 5 because I was such a huge Iron Maiden fan,
mm,
and I was so disappointed in it. And I even bought and you can get this commercially on if you want a physical copy. I guess there was a show called Live in London or something. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
sounds
Mhm.
familiar.
Yeah. It's out
Yeah.
on DVD. Yeah.
Yeah, and I bought the DVD. And it's kind of funny because he's decked out in Iron Maiden type gear, but he's singing songs like Heart User and
And weren't they covering like Journey songs and stuff like that too at some point? I
no,
remember
but they
content.
definitely
No,
were going in that direction. You're not
for
far
sure.
off.
I never heard
Yeah.
it. I never gave it a listen. It was one of the things I just never heard.
Yeah, it
Uh,
sounds
yeah.
like like it's very much like a Journey meets like Foreigner type band. Yeah, he was up there in leather, and there it's a live concert. You can find. I'm sure it's on YouTube as well, live at London.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the problem, I think,
It's
with him. Like you said, he's doing his AOR thing. Why would you do that for coming from Iron Maiden? Like, who would want to hear you do that? And
Well,
then
you don't ever know. I mean, he had a really good voice
he
and
did, but I
strong
think
voice.
he picked
He
the
could
wrong types of music after he left Maiden to do it.
it was
absolutely,
Never
but
worked.
yeah.
I'm sure he was having people influence him, saying, "Hey, if you sing this, you'll have chart success or whatever." And he was looking for that.
Well, they didn't get signed in the States because my album is an import. It's not
Mhm.
and it was on an indie label too. You
If
would
I
did
remember
some
right, it was on I think it was on a label called FM Records.
yes, FM Records. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe I remember that. I mean, but yeah, Wayne, it's not horrible, but it's not very memorable.
Mm,
No.
Imagine if Survivor had put out an album of their cast-offs,
right.
and that's what it sounds like. Yeah,
Good way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah. It's just not. What saves that album from complete mediocrity, I'll be honest with you, is Paul Di'Anno's performance is what saves it from lyrically, and he artistically he didn't write anything on it, I don't believe. And Tony, if you have the original album, take a look at the back. It'll tell you it was endorsed by Levi Jeans, company.
Yeah. Bring the
Yeah.
album in here with me. Yeah, it's not on the CD, but yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you used to see that a lot on different albums. They would have clothing lines endorse bands. I've seen like Puma was an endorser on like I don't know some bands or something I'd seen
Really?
before.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think it might have been the band we're going to talk about here in a little bit, Praying Mantis. I think it may have been. I saw it on.
That's interesting. All right. Well, that band broke up, Diano, and then in 1985, what's his name? Jonathan King tried to start a super group called Gog Magog, and he got Paul Diano, Clive Bird, Yannick Gers, Pete Willis, and Neil Murray. And but the only problem was they couldn't record any original material. They had to do cover songs, and that whole thing just blew up and never materialized. Never really did anything. I think they recorded a couple songs, but what do you have in your hand there? You got something?
Yeah, I have
What is
the unofficial CD of Gogamagog.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's an EP.
That's amazing.
It's an EP, and it was only 3 songs, and with the lineup you just named. It's really funny, man, because when I saw Paul Diano back in, I think it was 2010 maybe or 9, that he toured the States. He had Icarus Witches, his backing band, and he was doing a tour. I don't know if you guys saw that. I'm sure it came down your way. But he did a meet and greet afterwards. You know, it was before all the paid meet and greet situations. He sat, and I mean, there was a line of people at the club waiting to meet him. And I brought some albums and stuff to get signed. And a friend of mine mailed me some stuff to get signed for him. And he had the Gog Magog album in his stack. And when Paul got to it, he goes, "Oh God, you've got this bloody thing. God, this is awful." But he signed it, and he just kept
anyway.
going, you know. And then we had the Diano solo record too, and he goes, "Oh, this is bad."
That's funny. He said that.
Well, at least he's got a good sense of humor, and he actually said.
But the Gog Magog stuff is very poppy, very commercial sounding. And you know, I'm sure it was something somebody threw some money at him and said, "Here, go record this," and they were probably paid a flat fee, and they did it for the cash.
It's too funny. And then seeing Yannick Gers in there, I mean, that's there. He's with some Iron Maiden people there, so that's he gets to be in the band at some point. And then
Pete Willis from Def Leppard.
From Def Leppard, yeah, that's cool. He just disappeared off the face of this earth. Then after that, Paul started another band called Battle Zones, which stuck around for quite a while. And they released actually quite a few albums, right?
They did 3 albums. They did 3 albums.
2 of them.
I have a set that has all 3 in a little box.
Okay, all right. I heard about that.
Yeah. I've got the original on vinyl, 2 of them. I actually like them quite a bit. I like the first one. It's really raw.
Yeah, Fighting Back.
Yeah, the main song. There's only one songwriter. It's what is his name? John Regan or something like that. And the album is it's basically chunk of riffs, but his voice is great. There's a song called "The Land," the land God gave to Cain, and it's a really solid album, and I have him on CD and I have him on vinyl. And my story, the only time I tried to go see Paul Diano was not this album, was the one after that, Children of Madness. Is that what it's called, Wayne?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What I don't want to know was the single. They used to show that on Headbangers Ball quite a bit.
Yeah, I used to see it over here. So he was playing at a Club 19. Actually, Mr. T's Club 19, it was called. It wasn't owned by Mr. T, but it was the 80s, so they just called it that. Anyway.
It didn't go.
Oh, yeah, actually,
I tried to go. I was 15, and you know, I drove my friend's motorcycle there illegally. It's Tampa, you know. So anyway, or Clearwater. I went over there, and I go to the door. Sorry, 21 and up. 21. Come on, man. He wouldn't let me in. So that was it, you know.
Yeah, I did have that album. I actually bought it at a yard sale on a cassette. And I had a cassette player still in my car at the time, and I put it in a car. I'm thinking, all right, Paul Diano, I can finally hear some Battle Zones and see what it sounds like. And I'm like, I wasn't too crazy about it. I didn't really like it.
I really liked it at the time it came out. I don't think it holds up very well.
It don't.
Yeah,
it didn't to me anyway.
If it didn't for you, then it doesn't hold up at all. You know, so
I thought it was okay. I had the albums once,
Yeah.
and I ended up selling them because I had this little box set with the 3 CDs in it. So I said, that's good enough. I don't play it that often.
Yeah, I don't
But,
really play them anymore. I used to play them quite a bit, at least the first one. The second one disappointed me, and Paul Di'Anno rearranged the lineup. And what made little sense, he got rid of the main songwriter, the only songwriter, and then did the song that, like Tony said, I don't want to know, which was again Paul Di'Anno's trying to uh, get on the radio, I guess, and
Yeah.
is real commercial. Unfortunately, it's not that good. And back then, if you're on an indie label, radio wouldn't touch you unless it was community radio or college radio.
Right.
Yeah.
Overall,
He was on an indie label called Shattered Records, if I
yeah,
remember.
Shattered Records. Yeah, probably was his own thing, but
They actually,
yeah.
it was a label. They did several other bands that I have in my collection.
Oh, did they? Okay, I thought maybe it would be his own thing, but it didn't. I guess they toured the States close for that album, but it didn't go anywhere. And that album, he tried to have it both ways, where they'd have songs that are a little more commercial and songs that were what I call chunka songs, that kind of, riffing. Overall, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And what you're competing against in 1985, 86 wasn't just Cinderella and Bon Jovi and Def Leppard, but Metallica, Megadeth,
Started getting
your
all
own
thrash metal and
band.
stuff now.
Yeah, your own old band, Iron Maiden.
And of course, we'd see him move in that direction because he wanted to get heavier. He knew he had.
So
no, well, let's talk about that. What was that next
in 89,
project?
he Battlezones disbanded in 89. Then he started another band called Killers. Used the Iron Maiden second album name. And what's the name of that album, Tony?
So he did a couple actually.
Murder One, right? Yeah.
Murder One is the debut album, and he had one what's his name? Cliff Evans, who was in Tank, was in the band with him, and the debut album was Murder One, and that one came out on Zoo Entertainment, which is a BMG label. So he actually got pretty good distribution in the U.S. I believe he was living in the U.S. during that period as well. That first album came and kind of went. They released a live in South America called Killers South American Assault. And that one has John Gallagher from Raven had joined the band on bass for that. And it's live in Brazil, and it's pretty much them doing all Iron Maiden songs, except they do a couple of Battlezone songs in the mix. And then they end with a cover of Smoke on the Water. But John Gallagher himself told me that this I have it here, this album is not live at all. He said it was recorded in the studio with live tracks put over it. They never played South America with that lineup.
Wow.
And then they came back. He comes back with another album called Menace to Society. And that one was early 90s. And he had redone the band. And he comes back and he sounds just like Pantera.
Mm-hmm.
So much that when I got it, I think I got it right. It was probably after Vulgar Display of Power had come out. So we're waiting for a new Pantera record. Yeah. And when Menace to Society from Killers came out, I was playing it for people and said, "Hey, have you heard the new Pantera record?" And I play it for them. And they go, "Wow, this is good," And it's good for what it is. I mean, for a Pantera type band, he's made a pretty good album. Yeah. But it's just like Pantera, and you just can't take it seriously because it's Paul Di'Anno,
right?
Trying to be something he's not.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after that, I think they went out on tour, and he got in some trouble and ended up having to I think he got arrested and deported actually.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, we were talking in a chat before, and you sent me that one song, and it was totally Pantera. It was a total ripoff of one of the songs on Vulgar Display. It was like insane. Like,
yeah.
By then
a lot of bands did that at the time. Even Jag Panzer, they did the same thing with one of their albums. They had so many bands wanted to do that Pantera thing. It just, I don't know, boggles my mind.
Yeah, just trying to survive.
Well, by then I had dropped out of following Paul Di'Anno, and I did get Assault in South America a couple years ago. I've listened to it once. It's not that great, honestly.
I think it's good for what it is. I mean, for somebody doing Maiden covers, but it's not great. It's not Live After Death.
No, definitely not. I mean, yeah, but it sounds what makes it I didn't realize John Gallagher was even on there. That's how little attention I paid to that damn thing. I kept it because of who he is, Paul Di'Anno, but it's not something I throw on. And I didn't even know it wasn't live till you told me. They just basically just chucked in the studio. I bet they just did like a couple takes. All right, done, and then they went to the pub. Is my, So.
And since then, he's had several albums come out over the years, rehashed Iron Maiden songs, recorded live. And he did an album called Night of the Living Dead that was basically a new song with a bunch of old songs repackaged that I think Cleopatra Records put out. So I'm sure they tossed him some money, say, hey, record a new song and we'll repackage some stuff. But yeah, he's doing what he's got to do to make some money because I think he sold his publishing years ago.
Oh yeah. Paul Di'Anno left. Bruce Dickinson comes in. He's from the band Samson. He did a couple other bands as well, didn't he? I know everybody's always got so many bands. What else did he have?
He had some bands when he was like in college and stuff like that. Nothing ever really of
Samson's the one that everybody kind of knows.
Samson's the one, yeah.
Which was a really freaking weird band. The things that I'm watching some of the videos and the way Bruce dresses and the way he kind of like does. I mean, he's a funny guy in general anyway, but even acted more goofy in that band. I think that band was just
Bruce. What was up with that?
Yeah, Bruce. He didn't use his real name.
He had a porn stash and page boy haircut, and it was quite weird. That Samson was more of a blues based kind of heavy rock band.
Yeah, they were a throwback, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and they kind of got caught up in the whole new wave of British metal thing, and they had Thunderstick was their drummer who was once in Iron Maiden, and he wore a gimp mask, like a black hood, and played inside of a cage. His drum kit was set up inside of his cage, so it was very theatrical show that they did. Yeah. And Thunderstick kind of got known as kind of the face of new wave of British heavy metal because they had him when that article came out in Sounds. He was the face that was on the cover of the newspaper, Sounds newspaper. So, that's how Samson got kind of tied into all that. But if it wasn't for that, Iron Maiden probably would have never discovered Bruce, because they saw him play the Reading Fest with Samson and pretty much had made up their decision. That's who they wanted to be their singer.
I don't actually own it, but later on they released that as a live album. Didn't they? Live at Reading '79. Yeah.
And notice I've got several Samson albums, and actually they're pretty. The two that Bruce sings on actually Head On and Shock Tactics. They're both pretty good albums. Shock Tactics, especially. Riding with the Angels was their single, which was a Russ Ballard track. Russ Ballard wrote the song, the guy who wrote Since You've Been Gone. And
really? Okay.
Great song. Heretic, the band, Mike Howell's old band Heretic actually did a cover of it years later before he was in Metal Church. Great song, really good song.
It's a good song, but I'm not going to pick that song. I'm going to pick a song off the Head On. It's going to be Vice Versa. All right, we'll be right back. All right, that was Samson with Vice Versa. Really weird video if you ever watched that. It's pretty.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's a cool song though. I like that song.
Yeah, it's the Muscle Man. Like he's the guy playing Samson, and he's the Muscle Man. Gets the hair chopped and loses his power.
Bad. It is so bad.
Thunderstick is actually the guy Barry Perkins, who is Thunderstick, actually plays the role of the Muscle Man in the video. Oh, so that was him without the mask.
Oh boy!
Don't give me any ideas for any Severed Angel videos. So anyway, Bruce Dickinson comes into the band and they release probably one of the biggest metal albums ever. Honestly, Number of the Beast. Everybody always talks about Number of Beast. Every metalhead listens to Number of the Beast. I mean, you just see so many shirts.
Well, that's when I discovered Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
I was 12 years old, and I saw the album cover at the store. And MTV actually used to play the title track and Run to the Hills back then. And so that's how I got into Iron Maiden. I was so young, I didn't realize that they had any history prior to that till I started buying magazines, but that was the first Iron Maiden album I ever bought.
Yeah. What about you, Tony?
I think it was the first one that I ever had as well. I think a guy brought it to school and let me borrow it, and I came home and dubbed it, made a dub of it, and that was my first one. And I remember getting Killers not long after that. And the funny way I've got Killers was this guy, we were going to trade some stuff, and I said, "Do you have Killers?" And I meant, "Did you have Killers Kiss Killers?" And he said, "Yeah, it brings Iron Maiden Killers." And I was like, "Well, no, this isn't what I was saying, but this is cool. Yeah, I'll take this."
I think you won there a little bit
Yeah,
better.
I came out and it good there.
Yeah. But again, I mean, the band changed so much with Bruce's voice. His vocals totally different from Paul Diano's, and they just made a really killer album.
For sure.
I love those first two, but this kind of it's another
Let's
step
say
up.
album.
It's just really good. And then unfortunately, Clive Burr ends up leaving the band. Now, did he leave on his own, or did he get kicked out of the band as well?
I think they were having some issues or something, and they just parted amicably. Pretty much, I think it was just they just let him go, and he obliged pretty much. So,
but
I don't really know a lot of details on that, but he moved on to a few other projects as well.
Yeah, we'll get into that next in a little while. Actually, he was in a project with somebody from another band. Well, we'll get into that later. But the next guy they have come in, Nico McBrain, he's in a band called Pat Travers. I don't really know much about this band. We were talking about it earlier. Do you guys know a lot about Pat Travers?
Yeah, Pat Travers is an American guitarist, singer. He's just good, hard rock, kind of blues rock. And he was popular in the late 70s, early 80s a little bit. And Nico's on his third album, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's different, way different than Iron Maiden for sure. But that was one of the places that Nico got his start in. And I think he was succeeded in his drum throne by Tommy Aldridge. Actually,
you are correct. You are correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Funny, I was listening to this stuff earlier, and it's definitely nothing like Iron Maiden. It's more like AOR type stuff, I think, right?
Oh yeah, it's bluesy hard rock. Yeah.
And you can't.
His famous song was "Snorting Whiskey, Drinking Cocaine," which you probably heard that.
I never heard that.
Oh, that's a great song.
But I'm trying to listen to see if I can hear without looking and seeing Nico playing on anything. But I'm trying to see if I can hear his drumming, and I can't. So he completely plays different with Pat Travers.
Which song did you pick?
I was listening to both of the albums that I heard. The one that this song is from, I picked the song Stevie. So what is it called? Making Music, I think.
Making Magic.
Making Magic.
Yeah. Stevie's that is a very unique drumming pattern on that song as well. It's really cool. That's a neat song too, because it's a slow ballad, and the little guitar swells he's doing at the beginning. I have to wonder, did Michael Denner or Hank Sherman hear that when they were writing "Come to the Sabbath"? Because it's kind of always reminds me of. And if you hear the high pitched vocals at the very end of the song and the fade out, it sounds like a woman singing, like a soul singer. It's actually Glenn Hughes doing backing vocals.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I didn't know that was Glenn Hughes. Okay.
Yeah. The soul singer is definitely Glenn on that one.
I'm not a big Pat Travers fan. I have a greatest hits. I have an older brother. I'm not close to him, but he had, like Tony mentioned, it's hard to believe. It only lasts about 2 years, but Pat Travers is almost an arena actor. Yeah. And for a little while he was huge. And then he got buried by the 1980, heavy metal, hard rock onslaught. And he got buried alive like it was like it was an avalanche. He just couldn't compete with that. But he was for a little while a guitar hero and again, it's hard to believe because here you are, Wayne, and you know a lot about music, and we mentioned Pat Travers, and you're like, who?
He was. I always compare. He was much like Aldo Nova. Aldo Nova was really big. At first album was like double platinum, and then it just went nowhere. He just didn't. He didn't follow up with. I mean, even though he had one of the greatest MTV videos, he just didn't follow into that.
Yeah, and Pat Travers just, whatever I may think of his music, good or bad, he just didn't have the charisma. And let's face it, the MTV friendly look that was
That's what I
that
what I
was
was getting at. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
you know.
He wasn't Bon Jovi. So.
No, and he wasn't Eddie Van Halen as far as charisma, you know. So
And Nico was also in another band called Trust, which again I never heard that band either. Although I heard that song "Antisocial," the one that Anthrax covers. Anthrax, yeah. And I love that song. But then I heard their version, and I saw Nico does play out on a version. It's a French version of that song.
Yeah,
There's a
most
video
of their
for it.
albums were in French. Most of
Really?
their
Okay.
albums were in French.
yeah.
And now we're up to the Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son era of the band, and they're able to hold this lineup for quite a while now for all these 3 albums, which is really good because now they're not changing members and they're not changing the sound, and they're pretty much staying very consistent on these 3 albums. I think. What do you guys feel about Power Slave and Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son?
Phenomenal.
I mean, I love.
I'm actually missing an album. I'm missing A Piece of Time.
Well, Peace of Mind.
Peace of Mind. I'm sorry. Yes, Peace of Mind.
Peace of Mind's a great album. Great album. I love that. I love Power Slave. When they went into Somewhere in Time, they kind of started going in a little more proggy direction, adding keyboards in. I like that album pretty much, but I don't like it as much as I do Peace of Mind and Power Slave. And the same with Seventh Son. It seemed to go in a little more proggy direction on that one.
Yeah. Actually, Somewhere in Time is where I started listening to the band. Some kid I was friends with in school came over, bring that cassette over with him, and we listened to it. I really enjoyed it. I actually drew that cover, by hand, and because I didn't have a copy of the such an awesome album cover. So many hidden secret things in that picture that lead all the way back to the first album. It's a really cool album cover. But I love those keyboards. I think they didn't use them they weren't flowery keyboards, and it didn't distract you from much. It kind of fit in with the guitars, and they kind of I thought they left it pretty cool sounding in there, so I'm okay with that. My least favorite is probably Peace of Mind. I think maybe half of the album is okay, then the other half kind of falls apart a little bit. But Power Slave I think is awesome all the way through. Maybe there's one song on Power Slave I'm not too crazy about. And I think not Back in the Village, but what's after that? God damn it.
Wayne, you froze.
I did freeze and the whole thing shut off.
Okay.
You good now?
What was the last thing I said?
You were saying how cool I am and what a good looking guy I am this year. So happy that I'm on your show. And I'm like, thank you, Wayne. But they're going to think that this is a different kind of show. Anyway, go ahead.
You were talking about drawing. You were talking about all the.
Oh my God. It stopped all that too. Oh shit, man.
Yeah. Power Slave was the first time that I actually saw him in concert. Was the World Slavery Tour.
All right.
And and then I did see Somewhere in Time tour as well.
My grandfather gave me a record of Power Slave, and it was that one with the textured cover on it. It's stupid me. I freaking sold it on eBay years ago because my record player broke.
That's the version that people look for, the textured cover.
All the time. And they don't make, even with the reissues now, they didn't do that textured cover. If they did, I would have bought it, but I want that textured cover back. That was so stupid to get rid of that.
That's sort of why I had it too, and I got rid of it. And I feel like,
yeah. But that album just brings back so many memories.
You can get one for about $75.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Oh, yeah, fuck that.
I'll wait. It'll turn up somewhere. But I just remember listening to that album and just listening to that song "Power Slave" and "Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner" that ends off that album. It's just such an epic song, and that middle part with the bass, just sitting there going, going along with the ocean sounds and everything. It's just such a cool fucking song.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But they were able to keep that lineup for those 5 albums, and it just shows how good of a band they were at this period in time. And then during 1988, Clive Burr kind of shows up again and starts a band with Dee Snider called Desperado. Actually, I was
going to say before that, he was in a version of Praying Mantis.
Oh, that's right. Yes, it was.
Because Praying Mantis had connections to Iron Maiden. But they changed their name to Stratus, and they did an album called Throwing Shapes. Okay. And this is the record that I was looking at that has the endorsed by Puma on it.
Oh, that's
yeah. But yeah, Clive Burr joined them, and they changed their name to Stratus. And actually, the lead singer on this album was Bernie Shaw, who has fronted Uriah Heep
You're a
for
heap.
ages
Yeah.
now, like 30 years or whatever. But then, like you said, he popped up with Dee Snider in Desperado with what was the guitar player was Bernie Tormé.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Because that album was supposed to be released and didn't get released for decades,
It was
right?
supposed to be released. It didn't get released until 1996.
They the band basically folded for some reason, since they couldn't get the album released, and Dee Snider formed a band called Widowmaker and basically re-recorded those songs for the first Widowmaker album. Most of the songs that are on the Desperado album ended up on the Widowmaker album.
I didn't even notice that. I have that album. I don't have the Desperado album.
Am I Evil was one of the songs, and several. Calling for You, several different ones.
Yeah, I have the Desperado album, but I got to obviously, I don't know. I used to see a bootleg, and the original bootleg I would see had a cover like Dee Snider on the West. But my cover is a white cover with just them on it, a pretty boring cover. Yeah.
And apparently Clive Burr did go in the band Trust for a little while as well. I didn't know that. Did he ever do any albums with them?
I'm not sure. That's news to me.
I thought that was kind of strange how Nika was in there and then Clive was in there as well. So that's pretty cool.
Hey, Wayne, I got to meet a girl in like a few minutes. So one more segment for me.
What?
You know, I have a thing for chicks. Anyway, go ahead.
Bros before hoes, bro.
Don't cock block him.
Yeah, man. You're married.
She's up there playing video games right now. I'm down here doing something else. Adrian Smith, he leaves Iron Maiden. And then what am I getting at here? Oh, and then Yannick Gears comes in. Now Yannick was, like I mentioned before, he was in that band with Paul Di'Anno, and Yannick was also in a band with Bruce Dickinson when Bruce did his first solo album, Tattooed Millionaire. What else was Yannick in?
He was in Ian Gillan's band, and he was from Deep Purple, and he was in a new wave of British metal band called White Spirit. Okay,
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, that's a pretty well-known album in the new wave of British metal world. Good album. But he ended up kind of popping back up on the Tattooed Millionaire album with Bruce.
Now, I like Tattooed Millionaire. Do you guys like Tattooed Millionaire? I mean, it's not the whole album. There's some songs that are pretty
I like it. I like the album, but I don't like the cover of Mott the Hoople.
Really?
I like Mott the Hoople. I just don't like that cover.
Exactly. Me neither. I don't like the cover. I like the original song. But Tattooed Millionaire is a great song. I think he wrote that kind of about like Axl Rose, supposedly.
I thought it was about Vince Neil because
maybe one of them.
No, I mean you might be right. Maybe it's a combination, because he's talking about
all
porn
the
stars,
tattooed boys, and stuff.
Yeah, but ironically, wasn't Bruce Dickinson already a tattooed? Well, does he have tattoos?
I don't think he has tattoos.
Okay, but he was a millionaire, wasn't he, or close to it?
I'm sure he was.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah. But I get his point. I like it. And Gears is on the. I think he only played with Ian Gillan for one album, right? Magic, the last one.
He's on Future Shock, which is probably one of the best ones, actually.
Okay. I knew he. That's where I heard of him, but I didn't own those albums at the time because in the 80s, those Ian Gillan, excuse me, fans get upset, were hard to find. Metal Blade reissued them, and I had them on cassette for a while. Now I have them on CD. But Wayne, because of your aversion to Ian Gillan's voice, you will not like those albums. So avoid them. Everyone else will like those albums except Wayne.
It's funny how the tree connects too, because he was pretty much replacing Bernie Tormé in Ian Gillan's band. Bernie Tormé ends up playing with Clive Burr in.
You're right. It's just
Desperado,
Yeah.
Wow. And then also Dennis Stratton pops back up again. He joins Praying Mantis in 1990.
Yeah, Praying Mantis ended up changing their name back to Praying Mantis, and they did the album. Was it Predator in Disguise?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So is he on that album? Dennis Stratton on that album?
He's on in the band from 1990 to 2006, I believe. So he's on
Oh,
a few
I didn't know.
albums.
Wow, that long?
Yeah,
yeah,
he's on a few albums.
Predator in Disguise. Yeah.
And now we're up to the No Prayer for the Dying and Fear of the Dark lineups. And Yannick Gers just joined the band. Now, the band kind of changed gears a little bit here. Adrian Smith is gone, and you can definitely tell his influence has left the band. You know, No Prayer for the Dying is at the time it was probably my least favorite albums of them. Now it's changed to another one that's a much newer album, but it's just very light. It's not as heavy as the previous albums are, and that I don't know. It's just missing something. You know, it's missing Adrian Smith, I guess. What do you guys feel about No Prayer for the Dying?
Hey, I was going to add quickly too that you can edit this in. Dennis Stratton was also in a band called Lionheart.
Oh yes, that's right.
Which is very melodic rock, very AOR, and that was just before he rejoined or joined Praying Mantis. Cool. Yeah, go ahead, Manny. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was just gonna say, it's still my least favorite Iron Maiden album. No Prayer for the Dying. I actually like. We I don't know. We'll talk about them, but I actually like the Blaze albums better than that one.
Really, I'm shocked.
Yeah. Well, I this is recently. It took me years to get into those albums. We'll talk about that some other time. But I just think so. I think lyrically, it's real easy to point fingers at Gears. I don't think it's totally his fault.
No,
no, not at all.
Yeah, but always people always point their finger at the new guy.
Right. But Steve Harris runs the band, so anything that happens is because of Steve Harris. So
I just don't think it's a strong album, and I hate to use the word they're going through the motions, but in a lot of ways they were. Is that the one where they recorded the Bruce Dickinson song? That song is stupid. I know a lot of people love "Bring Your Daughter to Slaughter."
I like it. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's one of the better songs on the record, if you ask me.
It was their first #1 song, by the way.
Where?
And I think it was in the UK.
In the UK, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They that one though, No Prayer for the Dying. I just I don't know. It's just never resonated well with me. I've never been a huge fan of that album. But Fear the Dark, I thought was a little better of an album.
It was definitely
at the time it came out, I didn't pay that much attention to it. The song Fear the Dark is a great song. I love the title track.
That's a staple live song now.
It sure is. And that's what sold me. I never really paid any attention to it until I actually saw a bootleg video when Blaze had joined the band. They were playing over in Europe, playing over in Chile or somewhere, and they were doing. I was like, God, this is a good song. The crowd singing
and
it.
The crowd gets into it, man. And when they get into it, it makes that song
such a good song. But and you know, I thought Wasted Love was a cool power ballad.
It's not bad. Yeah.
But I actually like other stuff. Didn't do a whole lot for me on those couple of albums for sure.
I like Fear of the Dark better, and I agree with you. It's kind of funny. It wasn't a bootleg that did it. There was an Iron Maiden greatest hits package. I think they used the title a couple times. It came in it wasn't a jewel case, one of those little like clamshells. Yeah, Beast from the East, or something some ridiculous title, and it had a couple new tunes on it. I bought it brand new, and there was a live version of Fear the Dark with Blaze, and that sold me. So it came out after Virtual. No, it was right before Virtual 10 or 13.
It took you guys that long to really like Fear the Dark, huh? Wow.
It took me a long time. Yeah.
There was so much more going on in metal at that time that I was discovering, or bands that I was into. I was big into thrash and stuff at the time. That I just didn't pay that much attention to them because they really just lost me with No Prayer.
Wow. See, I was just getting into metal around 90, 91-ish. And then when I saw Be Quick or Be Dead, Be Quick or Be Dead, I was like, holy shit, that just blew my mind. The way Bruce is like screaming in that song and everything, and just how aggressive that song is.
That's a cool song. It's just, it didn't do anything for me at the time. It just took me some time to go back and check it out. I mean, that happens a lot of times. You just skip over a record and you'll go back years later, rediscover it.
Oh, yeah.
But Bruce, I think Bruce was antsy to do his own thing, and he was feeling like Steve was taking too much control. And it was just, that time.
And he and Bruce ends up leaving. And did you guys watch that concert that they did on pay-per-view? And they did that stupid magic trick and cut his head off. And
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that
have it
was
on
a cool way
DVD.
to
It's
go out.
terrible. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
with I can't remember the magician.
Simon something, right?
Simon, yeah.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
It's terrible. Maybe if you were there, it was cool, but when you watch it on film, it's pretty
yeah,
cringeworthy.
it's pretty cheesy. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
they actually filmed it's filmed on like video, so it's got that look about it.
Oh,
when
yeah,
you watch.
yeah.
It looks cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so-
and then they moved on to something, to something else. The casting call went out for a new lead vocalist for Iron Maiden.
Yep, and then they found one in Blaze Bailey, and he was previously from a band called Wolfsbane. You guys ever hear of Wolfsbane? I've never heard of them
Yeah.
before.
I
Yes.
had the first Wolfsbane album because Rick Rubin put it out on his
Right, Def Jam.
Death-
Yeah, Death America. Yeah.
and there was
Okay.
so much hype about it, saying these guys are like the new Van Halen.
Right. Yeah.
And I heard that there was a song. Remember those video magazines, what was it, Hard and Heavy? They had a little
Yeah.
piece on them, and you could hear one of the songs on it, and the song had kind of a Van Halen shuffle going on,
Yeah.
and the vocals kind of sounded like David Lee Roth a little bit. So I went out and bought the CD and was highly disappointed in it. Didn't like it at all.
Mm.
I think I ended up returning it to the store. Didn't like it at all.
No,
But
I didn't.
that band was around. Wolfsbane was
they
around.
were around for
before
quite a long time.
they actually had there's some recordings you can find online of them when it's a very new wave of British metal sound that they had to start with, and then they went
Yeah.
more rock and roll there for a while. They were going with a more straight ahead rock and roll sound, and then they did the Deaf American album or American.
Yeah, but
I never heard of them until Blaze joined the band. And it wasn't until about 4 or 5 years ago that I picked an album up. I can't remember what the hell it's called. It's got a black cover on it. It's not bad.
it's not terrible, but it's nothing mind blowing.
It sounds like a heavier garage rock, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I forgot that I think Rick Rubin produced them, and then he kind of just
Yeah,
That was
he kind
one.
of then he kind of lost interest in them immediately. Like, fuck these guys. And
yeah.
they
I
went
can't
their
remember
career.
the title of it. It was like, Live, Die Fast or something
Live Fast,
like that.
Die.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
like
some
that,
yeah. Now I'm out. So
All right.
thank you for
All right, get out.
having me on. Let me
No
know what we're
stuff.
doing next Wednesday, and if you want, I'll do this again with you Thursday again.
All right,
right.
sounds good. We got to think
All
of
right,
something else to do. All right.
See ya.
See you later. Bye. Have fun.
See, man.
So now Blaze Bailey's in the band. They released X Factor and Virtual 11. Now, I was really excited to hear a new Iron Maiden with a new vocalist in it. And I did not expect to hear what X Factor ended up turning out to be. It's so dark. It's completely different from their other albums. It's very progressive. The songs are probably the longest Maiden has done, really, through every song, on an album. And it was completely different. And I honestly, I think it's one of my top favorite Iron Maiden albums.
When I first got it, they were on CMC Records over here in the US, and
Right.
friends that worked at the label. The label's actually based here in North Carolina where I live. And my friend hooked me up with a copy of it, and it wanted to know my opinion on it. And I listened to it, and I was like, man, it doesn't really sound like Iron Maiden, but I wasn't expecting Blaze's vocals to sound like that. He actually, compared to what I'd heard him sound like in Wolfsbane, he actually sounds like Messiah Marcolin from Candlemass at times.
I didn't even think that,
and I'm a big fan of that guy. So
yeah.
I actually liked it. I thought Sign of the Cross was an excellent song. Man on the Edge was another really, really good song. Lord of the Flies, another great one. And so it had some good songs on that album. It's just, I don't think it was accepted over in the US like it. I think in Europe they did fine. They never faltered over there. But here they were back to playing clubs. They were ended up going out. I think they were playing like large halls and clubs. Not like little dive bars, but you know what I'm saying. 500 or more, 500 or less seaters, basically.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes not even selling those clubs out. You know, I heard a
No,
lot of those shows
it
really
was,
didn't sell well.
what year was that? 96, 90,
Um, yeah, probably around 90. No, actually,
96, 95.
yeah, probably around 90, 95, 96. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, you got to think grunge was dying out. You had new metal coming in. Just things had completely changed.
yeah.
And yeah, it didn't do much here. But you move on to the next record, and which is Virtual 11, which I didn't like at all. I don't know
Really?
about.
I
I thought it was just not a good record. I thought it's very weak. Now there's two songs, The Klansman
mhm,
and Future Real,
right.
which are great songs that Bruce made his own. When Bruce came in and he started doing that stuff, he made them his
Yeah,
own.
yeah.
And those are really good songs. And I can go back and listen to those now. But I think really what killed Virtual 11 for me was The Angel and the Gambler,
Oh my
because it's one of
God.
the worst Iron Maiden songs I've ever heard. And that Don't You Think I Can Save You? How many times does he say that? It's like Steve Harris just was on a loop. He
Right.
would write a
It was a
lyric
broken
and just
record.
keep repeating it over, and it was like a broken record, totally.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and
and they
that's
released that as a single. That was
right.
released as a single.
And
Yeah.
they didn't edit
No.
it. No edits. And I don't. This is where it started. Where there was only this was like the least amount of songs on Maiden album too, right? Maybe. And there wasn't many songs on this album because every song was like 10 or 12 minutes long.
Yeah. Maybe like 8, 9
Yeah,
songs. Yeah.
something like that. And I'm looking at the set list. And I'm like, God, there's nothing on here. Like, I hope this is good. And like you, I don't like this album that much, but I do like it more than I like No Prayer for the Dying. There are some really good songs in here. And I actually do like Angel of the Gambler, but it needs to be edited. It doesn't need to keep repeating that shit over and over again.
Yeah.
But
It's pretty bad.
but there's also Lightning Strikes. That's a really good song, I think. And there's a couple of the songs on here I like too. But Klansman, they still play that in the set today. You know, it's a great song.
Well, it's like I said, when Bruce came in, when they did the reunion, he came in and they were throwing. I was really surprised that they
I was too, because I saw
in
the reunion tour where Bruce came back and then he played the Klansman and the first song off X Factor. You
they
just
did
mentioned it, Sign of the Cross.
Cross. That was great. They did
Yeah,
something
so
awesome, did
shocked.
it.
I was like, oh my God.
And they still bring that up every now and then in the
Right.
set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's cool that they play these things, like, because Judas Priest don't do that, and Anthrax, they don't play like the songs that Joey Belladonna didn't sing and stuff like that. So it's cool to see Bruce would be up for singing Blaze songs, and he's also sang Paul Diano songs. So it's cool that he did Blaze as well.
For sure.
So anyway, Blaze ends up leaving the band after X Factor. And at some point, Adrian Smith resurfaces and he starts playing with Michael Kiske from Halloween, which I think Michael Kiske was kind of in talks about maybe replacing Bruce Dickinson at one point.
Yeah, he was in running for sure. He and Steve Grimmett from Grim Reaper,
Right,
both
yeah.
things that were pulled out. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of strange that Adrian Smith got along with Michael Kiske and he was on Michael's Instant Clarity album. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then Bruce Dickinson went on his way to did his couple solo albums, and they kind of Balls to Picasso was okay, and then he did Skunk Works, and I think that one kind of flopped.
Yeah, that was Bruce's attempt to be like modern alternative rock, and it just didn't work.
Didn't work at all. And but then he went and did Accident of Birth, and that's when Adrian Smith joined him, and they did that whole album together. And what a great album that turned out to be.
Brilliant album, love it. Love it. That was
So,
the best. That was the best Maiden sounding album in years.
Yeah.
When it came out. It was more Maiden than Maiden at the time.
Now that Adrian Smith and Bruce Dickinson got back together, Blaze Braley is out of Iron Maiden, and now Adrian and Bruce are back into Iron Maiden. Did you ever see that coming?
I kind of felt like it was going to happen because Bruce and Adrian hooking back up in '97 to do Accident of Birth. They did that. Then they did The Chemical Wedding, which is another great record. And it was so Maiden influence, and they were getting so much hype about, hey, here's these two guys from Iron Maiden doing stuff that sounds more like classic Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And Maiden were not doing well at all with Blaze in the band. And it was just time. It was time for a reunion, and everybody seemed to be on good terms, and it seemed like nobody was trash talking each other in the press,
right.
ever. I mean,
Right.
when Bruce left the band, when they did that pay-per-view concert that we talked about, I mean, that was the perfect way to have him exit the band. I mean, it seemed like everybody was in good, good terms to
Yeah,
end things. So, the time was right, and they came back, and it was a tremendous comeback for them. I mean, Brave New World was a great comeback album. I think it's probably my favorite of the later
oh yeah,
Iron stuff for sure.
definitely.
And there's a lot of those repetitious choruses on that one as well,
But they're
like
not
we
as
were,
bad as
but
Angel of the
not
Game.
bad. And I can deal with it with Bruce singing those songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great record. It's a great tour. I saw the tour in Pennsylvania. I think it was a package with it was Iron Maiden with
I think it was Queensryche opened, right?
it was Halford and Queensryche.
Yeah,
Rob
yeah, because
Halford.
then they were going to do that three tremors thing or whatever, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
the Three Tremors. Yeah, but yeah, that was excellent show. One of the best Maiden shows I ever saw.
Yeah, that was my second Iron Maiden show. I saw the somewhere not somewhere time the what is the one the Ed Hunter tour when Bruce came back. I saw that one, and then I saw the Brave New World tour, and I was
That's
just
right.
blown away.
They did Ed Hunter first, and then they did
Yeah,
the album. That's right.
yeah,
I forgot about.
yeah, and that Brave New World tour was just awesome. I actually have the not a VHS of a bootleg of that show from Madison Square Garden, and it was just awesome. And then they released that the Brave New World like to tour the Brave New what is it Rock and Rio? Yeah,
They did. Yeah,
so,
well, they played Rio, and that concert alone is just phenomenal. I mean,
it's
what
just
was it? 200,000 people,
yeah.
and just a sea of people, and most of them don't even speak English, but they're singing every
Maiden
word.
song.
And they're so loud. And I mean, Kevin Shirley mixed it, of course, and he put the crowd very high in the mix, so you could hear him song to all the choruses and the harmony guitar parts, and
it makes it, man. It makes it the hair stand up on your arms, man. When you hear that stuff, it's just so fucking cool, And then they hear them. The fans are so into Maiden playing new songs. Usually, when a band puts out new albums, they don't want to hear new songs. They want to hear the old classic stuff. But they're playing the new stuff, and people are still going crazy because it's that good.
Yeah.
But they're all back together now. You got a three guitar, a triplet with guitar. You got Adrian, Yannick, and then you have Dave Murray still playing guitar. So you have all those guys, and you got Nico still in the band, Steve Harris, and then you got Bruce back. And they put out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 albums with the same lineup.
Yeah,
it's insane.
I'm glad they can. I'm not a Yannick hater. So a lot of people just can't stand him.
I don't get it. I mean, I can understand because he prances around the stage and throws a guitar up, but it's cool.
He's a big part of their stage presence, and because really Adrian and Dave do not move that much. They kind of, especially Dave kind of stands back, and he's kind of like Bill Wyman. He kind of stands back in his own little spot, but Yannick and Steve are running around like crazy along with Bruce. And it's another character up there in the stage production, and he's we joke around, is he really on at times? Is he
right?
Really, on, but my only negative thing I can say about him was on those early tours was I hated to see when they would do an old song and he would play Adrian's solo when Adrian was standing there. But then over the years now, I've noticed Adrian has reclaimed his solos.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that, but yeah, I would think so. That would be the best thing to do. But that's cool. It's so awesome just to see these guys together. Yeah, no, me neither. I never did. It's just stupid when people make fun of him because he's in Maiden. They wouldn't have him in the band if he wasn't good. So he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
But in the middle of that, in 2012, for the first time that I know of, Steve Harris started a whole new band called British Lion. He never did any other bands, did he?
No, not that I know of. No, he's done 2 albums with them now.
Yeah. He released 2012. He did the same titled British Lion, and in 2020 he released The Burning.
Yeah,
and they're pretty good. I really never listened to all the albums, all the songs or anything, but I heard a couple songs here and there, and it's pretty good. But
I saw them. They were one of the last bands that I saw right before the COVID pandemic.
Okay.
I think I saw them like on a Wednesday, and then like that weekend everything was shut down.
Oh wow.
but it was great. He played in a concert hall, and the place was packed with Maiden fans. Probably half of them didn't own the record or care about the record. They're just there to see Steve Harris, and everybody was into it. He came out afterwards, signed autographs, took pictures with everybody. Just really, really cool, down to earth guy.
Yeah, I heard that he's a really nice guy. I know a couple of people that have autographs from Steve because he'll just come out and give you an autograph or whatever. So that's pretty cool. So how did they play Maiden songs on that show?
No, none,
Really?
none at all. Like when I saw Bruce and Adrian back on the Accident at Birth tours and Chemical Wedding period, they were doing Iron Maiden. They always did maybe 2 to 3 Iron Maiden songs in the set.
Right.
But Steve did none.
Wow, that's interesting. I wonder why. Now that's it. I mean, Iron Maiden, they released 17 albums. That was the 17th album was released in 2021, I believe, right? Senjutsu. So 17 albums, man. It's insane. Plus all the live albums they've released and all the compilation things. They're just as much as How many albums does Kiss have? Are they in like the 20s or something?
Yeah, they're
so they're catching up. They're catching up.
It seems like Maiden puts a live album out after every
single album. It's got to be. Yeah. But it's just insane that they're still kicking ass and they're just still at it. And we'll see what the next album comes out. I mean, they're a little bit more progressive now, and the songs are long. But I like Senjutsu. Did you like that album?
No, not at all.
Not at all, really.
Couple albums, yeah. I did see them on the tour last year, and I enjoyed it. I mean, a lot of times some of the stuff that I don't care much for that they do now, as far as just listening to, if I see it live, I have a different outlook on it, and it's cool to see them perform it live.
Did you watch the A Matter of Life and Death tour live? Did you see that?
I'm seeing
because they played the whole entire album.
Yeah. I did. I went and saw that. I saw that in Pennsylvania when they had some like crummy opening band too, like Bullet for My Valentine or something. But that I saw the show. The show was good. I mean, it was cool,
I think I almost fell asleep during that. I like the album, but I live, I'm like
I just remember, when you go to a concert and the drum solo comes up, no offense, you're a drummer, everybody always heads to the restroom, so there's always a line at the restroom for like the long solo part or whatever. Whenever you went to, there was always a line at the Maiden show during that whole show, because everybody was constantly, it was just nobody waiting at the same time.
They're waiting for the encores.
Yeah, they did it. Yeah, they did a couple of classic Maiden songs at the very end.
At the very end, and I was just like, I couldn't wait to. I mean, it was cool to hear some of those songs live, but it's very slow album. But my least favorite Iron Maiden album.
Didn't care much for that album at all.
No, but my least favorite Iron Maiden album. It's not No Prayer for the Dying. It's The Book of Souls. I just could not get into that album at all.
When I got that album, I was listening to it. I was working where I had about an hour drive to work, and I was driving home one day after work listening to it, and I was dozing off. I was about to run off the road, and I was like, nope, not doing this. This is not.
and it's funny because I hear so many people say how much they love that album. It's just I cannot find a song on there I like.
I've been meaning to go through the later Iron Maiden records and make me a compilation. There are songs that I like on each one of them, and I can make a good compilation out of, maybe 10 songs from those albums. I'm sure that I would really enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I like most of them except for Book of Souls. But anyway, Tony, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me here on freeworld.fm.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. And everybody can, whenever our show starts back up again, Almost Human Live, you can check that out on YouTube. And then you can also check out my show, Rat Salad Review, on YouTube as well. I will see you guys next week at 10 p.m. Eastern on freeworld.fm. Rat Salad Review Radio. Wayne Noon out. Bye-bye.